Well, it's a wrap on Star Trek, right? And by that, I mean Secret Hideouts Trek, you know? Or is it? Well, Screen Rant got something here, and there's been rumblings about this, and of course, Strange New Worlds has teased this from the get-go. So, let's see. Captain Kirk's Strange New Worlds spinoff status revealed by Star Trek EP, executive producer, I guess, in huge update. You mean huge if true? So anyway, Strange New Worlds executive producer and co-showrunner Henry Alonso Myers dropped a huge update on Star Trek Year One. The proposed spin-off about Captain James D. Kirk, played by Paul Wesley, and the Starship Enterprise. Star Trek Strange New Worlds wrapped its 5th and final season last Christmas, and they are currently in post-production. During the promotion for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, executive producers and co-showrunners Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers revealed that they were actively pursuing a Paul Wesley-led spinoff about James Kirk's first year as captain of the Enterprise. However, as production of Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 5 mounted in the fall, news about Star Trek Year One fell by the wayside. Trek Movies' Anthony Pascal caught up with Henry Alonso Myers on the red carpet of the 53rd Annual Saturn Awards, where Star Trek was honored with the Hall of Fame Award. Myers confirmed that he and Goldsman have officially pitched Star Trek Year One to PP. While it's in their hands right now, Henry assures us that there's a lot of love for Strange New Worlds and for Star Trek at the studio. Henry Alonso Myers said, "Yeah, we've brought them a lot. We've done a lot to give to them. It's in their hands right now. They're taking a look at it, trying to decide it. I mean, there's a lot of love for our show over there, and obviously a lot of love for Star Trek. We think it would be a great show. It's the next thing for Star Trek, we think, in the story that we've been telling. I guess. I don't know. But it's out of our hands. Yeah, we think it would be a great show." Oh, I already said that. It's the next thing for yeah, I said that too. Yeah, it's out of our hands. One concerning tidbit Henry Alonso Myers reveals to Trek Movie that is that Star Trek Strange New Worlds sets are still standing. Star Trek Strange New Worlds filmed at CBS Stages Canada in Mississauga, outside of Toronto. This is a positive sign that Paul Wesley's Captain Kirk could take over the Starship Enterprise bridge from Anson Mount's Captain Christopher Pike. Again, from Henry Alonso Myers. "Well, our sets have not been destroyed yet. That is what I can say. That makes this the big decision for them, because it's about, do you hold on to the sets currently? As I said, they have not been destroyed. So we're waiting to find out what they want to do." Henry Alonso Myers also addressed Trek Movies' question of whether PP is waiting to see how Star Trek Strange New World Season 4 performs this year before making a decision about greenlighting Star Trek Year One. It sounds like much hinges on Akiva Goldsman's prowess at negotiating with the studio. Again, from Henry Alonso Myers. "I don't know. The way I tend to look at it, my job is to get post-production on Season 4 and 5 done to finish the show. I try not to think about what our partners at the studios have to do, because that's a whole other world. Maybe even a strange new one. Akiva likes to go in and really push hard, and I'm probably more of a softer push on that. But my heart is where Akiva is." Oh, that's sweet. Finally, regarding Trek Movies' query about whether Henry Alonso Myers thinks the fact that there's currently no new Star Trek in production or green-lit for the first time in a decade is a pivot point for Star Trek. Henry says his priority is completing the post-production process for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Henry Alonzo Myers again. No, because for me to read that, I'm literally working every day on Strange New Worlds, and I'm like, nothing has changed. That's not really the question, Henry. We have 16 episodes that you haven't seen. We have 2 whole seasons. They're not really all that whole, but anyway, they're that we're still working on, and we'll be working on for quite some time. Oh, and Starfleet Academy is happening at the same time, and they just wrapped their season, literally, a week or 2 ago. But look, these things take a long time to do and do well. I mean, I want to say it's probably like an 18-month process. The point was new shows, not the ones you've already done. And that includes Academy. You understand? Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonzo Myers previously revealed that Star Trek Year 1 would be new stories about Captain Kirk's first year aboard the USS Enterprise, set before Star Trek the original series' second pilot episode where no man has gone before. Star Trek Year 1 wouldn't recreate episodes of Star Trek that were made 60 years ago, but they'll probably steal from them. Or other sci-fi like they usually do. Anyway, directed by Valerie Weiss and written by David Reed and Bill Wolkoff, Star Trek Strange New World Season 3, Episode 6. The Sealat Who Ate Its Tail tells the foundational story of Lieutenant Commander Kirk's first time as acting captain of the USS Farragut. It wasn't a coincidence that Kirk's first time in the captain's chair found him surrounded by his future USS Enterprise crew. Lieutenant Spock, played by Ethan Peck. Scotty, played by Martin Quinn. Ensign Nyota Uhura, played by Celia Rose Gooding. And Nurse Christine Chappell, played by Jess Bush. Oh, yeah. All of whom would logically return for Star Trek Year 1. Well, anyway, Star Trek's Familiar Old Worlds Season 3, Episode 6 was so well received, that it elevated a great deal of skepticism about a Paul Wesley-led Captain Kirk spinoff. Oh, you mean alleviated. I said elevated. Sorry. The Sealat Who Ate Its Tail, or Salat, probably, was effectively a proof of concept that Star Trek Year 1 would work. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 continued to build the bromance between Wesley's Kirk and Ethan Peck's Spock. It wasn't that great of an episode, and that monster thing they had that ate the ship. Okay. Anyway, PP's announcement that Thomas Jane was cast as Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy along with Kai Murakami as Hakuru Sulu, and that the duo would appear in Star Trek Familiar Old Worlds series finale also added fuel to the Star Trek Year 1 fire. After all, why cast an actor as high profile as Thomas Jane to play Bones McCoy for a 1-episode appearance, unless it was groundwork for a potential spinoff? For now, the wait continues for Star Trek Familiar Old Worlds Season 4 to premiere on PP, likely during the summer. We still don't know just yet. But anyway, the future of Star Trek is a huge question mark as Paramount Skydance decides on what direction to take Gene Roddenberry's 60-year-old sci-fi franchise. Hopefully, it will include new voyages for Paul Wesley's Captain Kirk and Ethan Peck's Mr. Spock in Star Trek Year 1. Nothing against those guys. And, in the right hands, maybe they could have done. But the stories of those characters have been told. I don't know. I guess if you jumped ahead and told the stories of what happened in between Motion Picture and Wrath of Khan, might be interesting. Except you've already established these aren't the same guys. This is an alternate universe version of them. So it's really not... It has nothing to do with it, really. It's just like, well, hey, this is an alternate universe version of those characters. So they're kind of the same, but not. Yeah, I guess, But what they do, look, I take it from the point the article is making. That was one of the selling points at the get-go of pushing this earlier, was that the sets are there, and a lot of money's put into that to just scrap all of that because it's property of Secret Hideout. So if you don't issue a contract of some sort to utilize it and for their version of the Trek characters, then all that goes away. Unless they can just buy it outright and repurpose the props for a new show and that sort of thing. But that's one of the big selling points. Apparently numbers on Strange New Worlds is better than the other Secret Hideout shows, which, doesn't say much because, well, the show's coming to an end very quickly. And the final season's like only, 6 episodes or something like that. And then you might get a follow-up with Kirk continuing on for a season. Maybe. Probably as a placeholder as they develop their new Star Trek, which they've greenlit a movie as far as a series, which is where Star Trek really should flourish. Movies are fine, but the original successful movies was a tribute to the original Star Trek. So you had the original cast in it, and you got some pretty good movies, some great movies out of it. And Next Generation's movies didn't fare so well. And when you lose that reunion aspect of it, that was the special nature, as it was a tribute to the show. It was honoring it. Abrams' first movie, it was fun, and then, it all kind of fizzled, especially that second one. Yee, ooh. So, a show is where you need to put Star Trek. Not saying you can't do movies. Yeah, you can give it a shot. But the real major draw for Star Trek is episodic serialized television, or streaming as it is now. And if you're pushing the movie to for your franchise to flourish or recover, and it does need to recover, it's in a very, very bad spot. And to just have, like I said, a placeholder show, the only thing there is you're still tied to that damn Secret Hideout if you do it. Now, granted, this is more Goldsman show than Kurtzman, but that's not doing a whole lot. And I've seen the show. It's had one okay episode. It's had some episodes where the performances had some moments and stuff. Most of the episodes are terrible. They're not that great. They mostly can say, hey, at least we're not STD, and that's not saying much. But there was like that one, the Lotus Eaters episode, that's probably about their only real show that kind of, sort of was like a Star Trek episode. Captain Pike actually got to be the captain, instead of the chef and stuff like that. But that's way too few and far between. And there are other episodes that, they didn't piss me off or anything, but they just, So at this point, it's like, well, at least it ain't Academy. Yeah. But that, again, it's like you're comparing like a stale piece of toast to a dog turd on the floor, and it's like, well, at least this stale toast isn't a turd. That's true. That's true. But it's still stale toast. Anyway, is it possible that you get this? Yeah, but only barely. And then probably the metrics they're looking at performance of Strange New Worlds. If it does well, then maybe so. Maybe they'll go ahead and do another one with this crew. But the hour is nigh on Secret Hideout Trek, as it should be. It's gone way too long and done an enormous amount of brand damage. That's the risk that's the problem of continuing with something like this. Unless you can, like, hey, we need to get some guys who really know how to do Star Trek to oversee this. And then suddenly you've got this, weird alternate reality first year of Kirk or whatever. And you have Ronald Moore comes in and pitches some ideas. And suddenly, oh, man, what might have been, And then you move on. But my idea is they need to move on with a brand new crew in a brand new era for Star Trek, and go from there.